So Canada just walked into one of the most powerful energy conferences on the planet and told the world, we're back. Not quietly, not with a press release, with a direct message to every ally watching Washington fall apart. If you need reliable energy and are done with the chaos, then Canada is your answer.
And the timing couldn't have been better, because this week, America's own government admitted something that should be making headlines everywhere, but it's not. Their books are a disaster. That's their own words. Basically, the economy is insolvent.
Not in a small way either. The U.S. Treasury's own annual financial report shows $6 trillion in assets against $47 trillion in liabilities. That leaves a negative net worth of $41 trillion. And the report itself, the government's own document, calls the long-term path unsustainable. That's what they actually said, that the United States Treasury is describing its own situation like it's not tenable.
Now, let's explain that in a way that people can easily understand. Think about your own household. Everything you own, your home, your savings, your car, it adds up to one number. Now imagine your debts, mortgage, credit cards, loans, and imagine those loans, credit card debts, and everything else are 8 times the amount of your assets. And every month, the gap keeps getting wider and wider. Now, nobody would call that strong management. Everyone would call it a crisis. And that is exactly what the United States is running right now, just with a lot more zeros and a lot more spokespeople paid to explain why everything's fine.
And the balance sheet is not even the full story either. When you add in the longer-term obligations like Social Security, Medicare, everything the government that has promised its American citizens over the next 75 years, well, that hole gets dramatically larger. And in the 2025 fiscal year, that long-term shortfall got worse. Not better, worse.
So when Donald Trump and his cronies say that the debt is a future problem, they are understating it hugely, or bigly, as he would say. The future problem is already in the numbers right now. They are just hoping that nobody will notice.
Exactly. Now, this didn't all start with Trump, right? Because the debt was already enormous before he even arrived. But here's where Trump becomes the accelerant. Because when you're sitting on this kind of financial weakness, the one thing that you need most is trust. Trust that the people near the controls are making disciplined decisions. Trust that you're predictable.
And trust is what Trump keeps crushing. Every impulse tariff he makes, every alliance treated like a grudge, every morning where the world wakes up wondering where Washington is going to invade next. Well, when leaders and investors start doubting you, they charge you a lot more. And when you already owe $47 trillion, paying more on that debt is not a rounding error at all. It compounds into everything.
But truthfully, here's the number that really stopped us cold when we read this report. America's own government auditor, the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, said again this year that they cannot formally sign off on the federal government's financial statements. That's huge. The accounting problems are just too significant. Defense spending cannot be properly reconciled. Transactions between agencies can't even be fully tracked.
And here's the part that really matters. This was the 29th straight year the GAO said that. 29 years in a row. If your accountant refused to sign off on your books for 1 year, you would fix it. 2 years? Well, you would be alarmed. 29? Well, you'd probably be thrown in jail. And that is how the U.S. operation runs. Maybe they should all be in jail.
That's probably a good idea. Now, what's crazy is, America lectures the world about having sound governance and financial transparency, while its own auditor has not even been able to sign off for 3 decades. You can't lead the world on accountability when you have not even solved your own issues.
Maybe it's all those wars they keep creating. But anyway, that's another video. Everything we said right there is why Canada's moment at CERAWeek is so significant. Because the world does not just run on oil and gas anymore. It runs on trust. And right now, trust in American stability is cracking. That creates a real opening in Canada. We're walking right into it.
Yep. In Houston this week, Canada's Natural Resources Minister Tim Hodgson stood up at one of the most important energy conferences on the planet and said these three words: Canada is back. He told the room that allies desperately need Canada's energy and minerals. He pitched Canada, of course, as the stable, reliable partner for a world increasingly worried about where its energy is actually going to come from.
And he wasn't overstating it, Dave. Canada has oil. It has LNG, which is liquefied natural gas. It has uranium, it has potash, it has the critical minerals that power electric vehicles, defense systems, and other technology the modern economy runs on. So this is not a hypothetical situation. This is what the world is scrambling to secure right now.
And the timing here, again, it's not accidental. While Hodgson was in Houston, global energy markets were already rattled. Reuters reported that the ongoing conflict with Iran has been pushing energy prices sharply higher and creating real anxiety about supply stability. Countries that depend on the Middle East for energy are already looking around. So Canada, we're there, we raised our hand. That is what real leverage looks like. Not a tweet, not a tariff threat. Real leverage is being a country that can actually deliver what the world needs when the world needs it most.
Now here is a deeper shift happening underneath all of this that Canadians need to understand. For decades, we sent almost everything south. Our oil, our gas, our lumber, our wheat, our minerals, just to one customer, the U.S. market. And that worked fine when the customer was stable.
Now that the customer is treating trade agreements like hostage situations, threatening tariffs every 5 minutes, turning economic relationships into political weapons, suddenly the world diversification stops sounding something like economists say at conferences, right? It starts sounding like survival.
So Canada is now building the infrastructure to sell its energy and resources to Europe, to Asia, and to the Indo-Pacific. Now this isn't instead of the US, but alongside of it. The goal is to have more than one big customer. The goal is to never again be held hostage by the decisions of one neighbor, no matter how large that neighbor is.
And truthfully, the contrast right now couldn't be sharper. You've got America, negative net worth of $41.7 trillion, an audit that has not been signed off in 29 straight years. Obviously, a leadership style that treats every ally as a potential target. And then there's Canada, steady, resource-rich, politically stable, and actively positioning itself as the reliable alternative at the exact moment that the world is looking for one.
We will admit that America still has real advantages. Its military, for one. It has a huge technology sector and its market size. So we're not saying that the U.S. is finished. We're just saying that for the first time in a long time, its biggest advantage, the world's economic trust, is no longer automatic. And Canada is smart enough to notice that. And we're smart enough to move on.
The world is not looking for the loudest country right now. It's looking for the steadiest one. And Canada is making that case, not with stupid rhetoric, but with resources, relationships, and a reputation that is growing stronger and stronger each day, while America's is getting weaker.
The USA's own books declare an unsustainable path. That debt is real. The audit failures, they're real. And the leadership risk, well, this crazy dude in charge, that's real. And Canada just walked into the room and said, "We see the opening, everybody, and hey, we're ready."
So here's our question for you today. Do you believe that Canada can actually complete this shift, moving from America's dependent neighbor to genuine global energy power? Or is this just Ottawa talk that will stall when it hits pipeline approvals and provincial politics? Leave your prediction below because we want to hear from you. And hey, we read every single one of it.
So if you've been admiring our merch, check out the links below in the pinned comment because we have links to our merch store, our Substack, our A-Team links, and our Facebook group. And the conversation just keeps on going long after this video has ended.
So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Ciao for now.